conversations. You ready? Let's go. The currency of connection. Let's connect, baby.
Hello. Oh, y'all hear me if I hit that? Hello. All right.
There you
There
go.
we go. There we go. Okay. So, hey, welcome to Rich Conversations. I am Damon
I
Rich,
am Tamika Rich.
and we are so glad to have you listen. This is our first episode that we're having solo. We've had the kids on
Solo
here.
dolo.
Yeah, solo dolo tonight. We've had the kids on here. It has not been us. We're trying to get back into the swing of it. I tell you. That's why tonight's episode is what can you learn in the fire?
Mm.
When life gets to life in,
All right.
what can you learn in the fire? And more importantly, how can you navigate those moments
Mm-hmm.
when life gets to lifing? So that's what we're gonna get into. That's what we're gonna
Let's
get
do it.
into on tonight. So, first, how's it been? How you been?
Um, good.
Been good?
Yes.
Been good? I've been good too.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask. I see you thinking about it a minute.
I had to
Yeah.
think about it.
Uh,
I feel discombobulated.
mm-hmm.
Uh, just because my thoughts are all over the place, have a whole lot of stuff just going on, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is challenging stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it's stuff nonetheless.
Bring them in. Bring them
Yeah. So,
in. No, I get it. I've been kind of. I was gonna say in the same place, but I'm actually in a place of be still and know. So when they start racing at me like that, I'm like, I gotta turn them off.
I it, sometimes,
Uh huh.
probably in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I like to just kind of go sit on the side of a mountain and just dangle my feet, look over there. I ain't gonna jump, just look over the edge.
Okay, clarify,
Yeah,
clarify.
I ain't gonna jump. Just want to
All
look
right,
over the edge and just kind of
I
dangle
get
my
it.
feet and just contemplate all of God's great wonders from on high while breathing clouds.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, in trying to say, feel Lord like, hey, help me, show me how to reel this back in, how to, oh my goodness, show me how to reel this back in,
All right.
how to move in this moment and in this season. That's been my prayer. And man, a lot. So
It's
go ahead.
mhm. And it's needed. A lot of times we don't take the time to do it. So you have to condition yourself, train yourself to take the time to do these things.
Yeah, yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely. Um, so let me just, I'm gonna talk
Stop.
about it like circular. So
Mhm.
just thinking like, so we went on our family retreat. We talked about that a couple of episodes.
Mhm.
We came back with a plan, and as you start working the plan,
Mhm.
you see immediate needs for refinement
Mhm.
of the plan.
Mhm.
And so when start seeing needs for refinement, it's like, aha, because I'm a perfectionist of sort. What did I
Mm.
miss?
Right.
What wasn't I thinking about when we were doing the plan? Did I
Mhm.
have all my ducks in a row before I went into? So you start thinking about that, but then you see things that you absolutely like. We just got out of month two of the year.
Mhm. I
We're
can't believe we're already in March.
already in March, and
Crazy.
Now we're in month 3, right? So
Mhm.
we've got to figure out, okay, what does this look like?
Mhm.
Or, what tweaks we need to make quickly.
Right.
So, we've been working on planning our or not marriage, relationship
Should
retreat.
retreat. Mhm.
Got some exciting news for
Yay.
you coming out on that. We're just waiting again. We had one location that kind of fell through. We have
Mhm.
a couple of nice options for locations that are coming up for our relationship retreat that are
Mhm.
going to be awesome. Either one we go to is going to be great, but I'm
Right.
kind of pushing for one of the ones that I think might set the mood for a retreat.
Right.
Feels a
I
little
agree.
more retreat.
Treaty.
I ain't setting the
Mhm.
mood for nothing else because when you come to the fall retreat, we are going to be working. We are going to be actively hands on digging in, right?
Mhm.
So, so thinking about that, then we got have a 1 day seminar we're gonna do
Mhm.
um in the middle of the not
Summer.
in the summer,
Mhm.
right? So I'm kind of thinking about that. Does that need to be, because we kind of went back and forth, does that need to be a another marriage, or is that just life?
Um, a life works for me.
Yeah, because
It,
not everybody is in a
it's just a
relationship.
rich conversation
It's a
moment.
rich conversation. So we're gonna do a
Mhm.
rich conversation 1 day seminar that's
Mhm.
coming up in July.
Mhm.
In July, we're gonna do that. It's gonna be a 1 day intensive digging into some stuff. We're gonna cover a whole lot of things in a short period of time.
All right.
But planning and pivoting
Mhm.
and trying to get these things stood up in the midst of all that we have going on life that's happening. We have family staying with us, we have kid about to graduate, we
Yes.
have daughter launching into career, we
Mhm.
lost our grandpa. Well, like, we
Yes.
have a
That was
lot
heartbreaking.
going on, and this is not measuring what we have going on to somebody else's, what they
Mm-mm.
have going on, because life is your life, and
Mhm.
what may seem minor
Mhm.
to me can be major to you, and what can seem minor to you might be major to me.
And it's just a relation of knowing that hey, everybody has something going on regardless to what you see every
Hmm.
day or
Yeah,
what you may see on social media if we pop on or do something or see us in the grocery store or see us anywhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and we're
And
part.
so the same thing for them. We
Yeah,
know that even if we
exactly.
see them and they're smiling doesn't mean things aren't happening. Life
Yeah,
isn't lifing.
and seeing them and they're not smiling doesn't mean
Yeah.
that life ain't going bad. I mean, part of organizations where we're trying to impact the community.
Mhm.
Just a lot. And when you have so much life happening,
Mhm.
which is just everyday living,
You're right.
there's this one therapist that I follow on TikTok. Don't know her name. I need to know her name, but I agree. I don't agree with everything she says, but I definitely agree or understand the context of most of what she says.
Mhm.
In mental health, this is something that she says, mental health has become a buzzword
Mhm.
to the point that it negates a very important topic
Right.
of having mental health,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
It negates a very important topic. Shout out to Alexis and the teen mental health
Yes.
thing that she did
That yeah.
over the weekend.
Workshop.
That is, it sounded like it was phenomenal. Hate we couldn't be there to support,
Mhm.
but yes, mental health is a very important topic. But one of the things I like that this therapist talks about is she says some things are just life.
Right.
Everything isn't trauma.
Mhm.
Everything isn't narcissistic. Everything isn't, a trigger. Everything,
Mhm.
some things are just life.
Mhm. And
And
learning how to deal with it.
and you
Mhm.
went exactly where she
Mhm.
went.
Mhm.
She says her fear about how we have allowed mental health, behavioral health to become our identities.
Mhm.
And she said,
Exactly.
especially for Black people, is it is taking away our ability to be resilient.
Right.
We have been a resilient people,
Mhm.
and we are losing that resiliency.
Mhm. Yeah.
we're not valuing. She's like not trying to say like go through all this suffering and this and that. No, 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 no. But we have gone through a lot, and we have not only survived, but we've been very resilient.
Mhm.
And we're losing one of the things that's made us great, which is our resiliency.
Right. So it's learning how to unpack it, not throwing everything mental health all into one basket or bowl,
Yeah, yeah,
and having a good balance and diversity with mental health and mental health conversations.
yes,
And so it's always the thing I say, we go from one extreme to the other
yes, we do.
without that healthy balance in the middle.
Yeah,
And that's figuring out talking to groups of people. And even if you start with our generation, and
yeah,
for us unpacking things and becoming aware of a lot of things and getting to know a lot of things,
yeah.
that's one thing, and it helps us relieve a lot of the mental health issues that we dealt with, because back then there was no medicine. I mean, there were mental health, because I
Hmm.
have some family members that actually had some mental health issues, but it was how they dealt with it was differently
Hmm.
than how we deal with it now. And I think we do have more compassion and empathy
Hmm.
towards mental health now,
Yeah,
versus back then,
yeah.
you know. A lot of times, so just knowing how to do that, that's the same with almost everything: discipline and conversations you have, and probably it even goes into our social norms,
Yeah, yeah.
that our young people deal with. So just learning to have those conversations, I think, together inside your house and your family, even
Hmm.
dealing with mental health.
I think that this generation and the generation after them, elemental P generation, whatever it is. Oh, that
What are we on? We on Z
yeah,
now,
yeah, yeah. We on
aren't we?
Z.
We
No,
start
we
over.
on Alpha. We on Alpha.
Oh, we just started over.
Uh
Okay,
huh.
that's right.
So the thing is that with these generations, they are not as mentally resilient as we had to be.
Mhm.
Now, there's a blessing and a curse in that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank God they didn't have to be as
Hmm.
mentally resilient as we had to be. However, when you look at the things that are happening in this world,
Hmm.
oh my goodness,
Right.
they need more mental resilience because of everything that's kind of coming at them
Hmm.
in life. There's things that they have to deal with that we didn't have to deal with. We probably had some version of it,
Right.
but we didn't have to deal with certain things, right?
Hmm.
So, I'll use something real quick. When I was in high school, and before I changed to my second high school, and even in middle school, we had a guidance counselor
Hmm.
that everyone knew she was gay,
Hmm.
right? Had a girlfriend,
Hmm.
but that wasn't talked out loud.
Hmm.
We also had another guidance counselor. I'm not gonna call people's names. I remember both of their names. He was a male. He was gay.
Hmm.
Everybody knew it, but it wasn't talked about,
Hmm.
right? And they 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 were who they were. They didn't feel the need to talk about it. They just lived their life, and everybody left them alone. It
Right.
wasn't so polarizing.
Hmm.
It happened, but it wasn't so polarizing. I don't know how that may have impacted them. They seem to
Hmm.
be fine or what have you.
Hmm.
Good people, nice people, but it wasn't as polarizing.
Right.
It was just kind of accepted silently.
Hmm.
But now we live in an age where it's very front of mind,
Hmm.
almost to the point of. So let me talk about. Hopefully, it doesn't get me in trouble. But back then,
Hmm.
where people was like, that's their business,
Yep, I was just
right?
about to go there.
That's their business.
Yes.
They didn't make
Hmm.
fun of them. They didn't bother them. That's their business.
Hmm.
And if that's how they choose to live their life, let them live their life. Now it's everybody's business. And I feel
Hmm.
like it's become everyone's business because the people who don't like it are making it their business. And the people who want to do it are making it everyone else's business.
Hmm.
And there was just certain things. Now, I don't necessarily say that's always good because back in the day, men used to beat their wives and that was their business.
Mhm.
Everyone turned a blind eye. That's a
Mhm.
horrible thing to
Right.
turn a blind eye to, because somebody could get killed, seriously hurt. I've told you the story about the neighbor that came over probably every other Saturday. Her husband, who was like a 6'1", 6'2" hulking man. This lady was maybe 4'11".
Mhm.
Yeah, beat the brakes off this lady,
Yeah, that's sad.
right?
Mhm.
And police would come, and I not once ever saw him take him to jail. This pre-OJ.
Wow.
But that was a bad instance where, hey, that's your business.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm.
Crazy thing is in their yard, like him and his wife and child lived on one part inside the fence, and his mom lived in another house.
Mhm.
And oh man, it's kind of heartbreaking when I think about it, because I can see the grandma, know her name. I can see the mother. She's no longer here. She passed away of cancer many years back.
Mm.
Man, I can see her going over to her mother-in-law
Mhm.
and calling her husband's name and saying, or calling her mother-in-law's name and telling her, to do something with her son. And she like, you need to stop making him mad. What? So I can only
Mhm.
imagine from where she came from,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That her response to her daughter-in-law was to stop angering him. But there's nothing that you can do or should be able to do to the point where this man just comes home and beat the holy crap out of you,
Right. Right.
right?
Mhm.
It shouldn't be that way. She worked at a convenience store. She just tried her best to. It's just is horrible situation.
Right.
Um, and
So,
man,
mhm.
hmm
So things like that should be talked about and
they should.
reported and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's a difference in getting help and knowing what to tell versus just getting on there and saying and telling everything.
See,
I think there's a thin line there.
there is definitely a thin line, because
Mhm.
I believe this. I posted this the other day.
Mhm.
If God had the mentality
Yeah.
of what goes on in this house stays in this house, then we
Mhm.
don't have a Bible,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
We do not have a Bible if that's God's mentality.
Right.
But
I
because
agree.
that wasn't God's mentality, our lives are not truly our own.
Mhm.
You do have to be led by God, but you have to understand that God wants to use your story, because again, they overcame the dragon by the blood of the lamb and the words of their testimony. If no one's
Exactly.
talking about their testimony, then we've already put away one of the weapons that we have,
Mhm.
right? We
Right.
put away one of the weapons that we have. So what do we
Agree.
do, to have the right weapons to do the right things and to, you know.
Right. And maybe it's the when. When do I talk about this?
Yeah,
I think it's the thing. It's the
yeah.
when.
I definitely, mm, I definitely think that you can't talk about it until, and this some, we've learned before, but when we was in next level, when they teach you about speaking
Thinking.
professionally,
Mhm.
you cannot get on that stage. I got a story to tell you. You cannot get on that stage if you're not mentally and emotionally healed enough to take the people into your story
Mhm.
and bring them back out.
Mhm.
Because if you get up there and have that a mental, emotional meltdown,
Right.
and you can't bring them back out, you leave your audience emotionally stuck. And
Right.
for some people, that could be problematic. It's one of the reasons when I present on sensitive stuff, I
Mhm.
put a disclaimer up front.
Mhm.
Some of what I'm about to share
Right.
may be triggering, because these are the topics I'm going to cover.
Mhm.
So whatever you need to do, whether it's now or later, if it may trigger you,
Mhm.
please take care of yourself and get out of the room.
Right.
Right?
And a lot of times, guess what that is? A testimony.
That
You know,
is.
if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
testimony,
Mhm.
but even on top of it being that testimony, babe,
Mhm.
um, it is compassionate
Yeah.
to prepare people
Mhm.
so that they
True.
understand. Like when we get into our retreat, because we're not going to be all over the air, we're going to talk about some sensitive stuff
Mhm.
that's going to help people heal
Right.
in their relationships,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And you got to be prepared to take them into the emotion of it
Mhm.
and back
For
out.
sure. Right. I think for me, and I think we are getting back into that time or era of community
Yes,
and communities, and that's what the community is for.
yes.
Yes.
And that is the thing that we are lacking the most in this day and time. There is no sense of community. I don't care how small the community is, there seems to be a lack of a sense of community.
Mhm.
If I go to the Bible says in the latter days, men will become lovers of themselves.
Mhm.
Everyone loves them some them.
Mhm.
I get it. I love
Right.
me some me. You know,
Right.
I gotta love me,
Yeah.
but I don't want to love me to the point that I'm a detriment to you.
Right. Because here's the thing: I'm supposed to love them, my neighbor, just
Mm-hmm.
as much as I love myself. So that keeps me from being unselfish.
And that is that fire.
Yeah.
That is that challenging thing that God calls of us
Mhm.
on us
Mhm.
to do for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Um,
Yep. Love
yeah.
them as me.
Love them as me.
Mhm.
Real talk.
Mhm.
So life happens. We go through challenges. Um, RIP to homegirl Mary Rozier, Pee Wee. You know, life is
Yeah.
happening for her kids. Life is happening for her grandkids. Life is happening for family and
Mhm.
friends because she's no longer here. And she was a backbone and she was a staple
Mhm.
for her family.
Yeah.
Life is life. And I just, I think mentally I've suppressed it so much
Mhm.
that, you know, March 1st, my sister passed.
Mhm.
I think this is what, year 2, year 3
Mhm.
that
Year
she, year
3.
3, she's been gone. And I didn't, her funeral was like on March the 6th, if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken. And I didn't think about it because I think I've just mentally wiped that out.
Mhm.
Um, but it's,
Some of it is mental, and I think we just have so much on the brain
oh
right
yeah,
now that
oh
it
yeah,
just gets
yeah,
all intertwined with everything, and so it moves further and further to the back. And I
yeah,
think a lot of things that we should be intentional to keep to the forefront, not in an unhealthy or a bad way,
yeah,
but in a way to remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Here's something that I thought about. Speaking of life, and I was thinking about my dad.
Mhm.
So just so y'all get to know me, because I've thought about this a lot. If you hear me say dad, I'm talking about my stepfather. If you hear me say pop, I'm talking about my biological father.
Mhm.
So dad, stepfather, pop, biological father.
Mhm.
Got it? We good? All right. So
Oh, I like how somebody else like distinguished their dads because they lived in different cities. So they'll
uh,
be like my Cali dad versus my Georgia dad or
oh
something like that. So I was just thinking about that when you said that. You could say my
yeah,
Georgia dad versus my Belle.
my Florida dad. No, dad and pop. Cause
Yeah.
that's how I definitely refer to him,
Mhm.
my biological as pop. And so here's the thing. I was thinking about this about my stepdad
Mhm.
or dad. Is this he didn't have any friends.
Wow.
It hit me out of the blue.
Hmm.
My dad had no friends. None that I knew of. I knew he had guys that
Wow.
he worked with. He had, but his everything was about my mom, and by virtue of being about my mom, about us
Mhm.
and working. But he didn't have any friends. I can only remember one time
Hmm.
him going out, and I think my mom and him were going through a little something. In hindsight, I can only think of one time he went out to a bar, which was not him, to have him a couple of beers, which was not him.
Mhm.
So I know they had to be going through something because it was out of character.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was just, he was who he was, and he didn't have any friends. And what I started thinking about was either a state of loneliness
Mm-hmm.
that had to exist for him because he was from another part of the United States, moved down here, so he wasn't where he grew up at.
Right.
And he got married to this woman that's got 2 kids. And outside of the time he spent on work,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't have any friends. He had men that he knew,
Right.
but he didn't have any friends.
Or and then his family. How often did he interact?
They,
Because
I,
from me, from the time that we were together, I didn't know much. Like maybe
by the time we was together,
Mhm.
his dad
towards
was
the
gone,
mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to think if his mom Stell was gone, and he called. He didn't even, and I don't know. Maybe it wasn't his real mama. I don't know. I never asked. I think she was, but he called his mom Stell. He didn't call her. Her name was
Mm-hmm.
Estella. He didn't call her mom,
Mm-hmm.
at least not in front of me or whatever. Um, but he was um he talked to his sister. He had 2 sisters. I think one was Jackie. I can't remember. He had a nephew named Nathan. But I don't really. He didn't really. I mean, he talked to him. They wrote a
Mm-hmm.
letter here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't remember. I know that my mom and him went to visit one of his sisters and her husband out in Colorado or something, whatever. So I know they did stuff like that, but for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
he would
But like
travel.
how often?
It wasn't often. It was
Right.
like I think he would travel back to Michigan every now and again,
Mm-hmm.
every other year or something like that. They would drive up. I drove up with him one time. Is it exciting and a miserable time all at once? Um, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a long road trip.
yeah. It's a long road trip, but we got to go to. I stopped in the Smoky Mountains. We stopped in some other states, and we drove all the way up to Michigan and all the way back. So, and they stayed in the mitten, in the thumb of Michigan. So it's a good little drive.
Mm-hmm.
Good little drive. But I don't
Recall him
I
having
don't
any.
recall him having any friends. I don't recall him. He rarely talked on the phone unless he was talking to his mom, his dad, or talking to his mom, his dad, or talking to his sister
Mm-hmm.
or something. His his mom would send me, I mean, real nice little goodie bags every Christmas, and
Mm-hmm.
she always sent us a spiral ham and just things like that. So, but I don't remember him having friends, and I forget which parent it was. I want to say it may have been his mom that he went home alone to go and bury his parent. And in hindsight, now to me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why my mom didn't go, but that's crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, unless there was some physically reason you could not,
Right.
I couldn't work nothing. I To go and bury my parent alone would just
Mm-hmm.
be, now if he wanted to go alone, even that's troubling.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but
I have a transparent moment, or we can be honest. Even when mom died, my mother in love, me and you weren't on the best of terms, or we were going through
hmm
our situation, but I still couldn't imagine not being there and doing the things that I did.
yeah, I would say this, being that what we were going through at that time, had you not been there in some capacity, we probably wouldn't be together.
Mm, I
We
can
probably
see
would,
that.
because I think it just would have been just too much,
Mm-hmm.
just too much to
Mm-hmm.
overcome. In that there is a
All right.
such thing as a breaking point. There is a such thing
Mm-hmm.
as too much in a moment. Um, And the crazy thing is, kind of when we were going through, I lost two parents in that process because I lost my pop and I lost my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And going through what we were going through and dealing with that, the emotional taxation for me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain it took off a couple of years of my life. I'm certain of it because it's just a lot. Um, my dad, I didn't, or my pop, I didn't really grieve. My mom, I probably didn't really grieve until 6 months to a year later.
Mm-hmm.
But is emotionally is a lot. The I was emotionally bankrupt
Mm-hmm.
through that season for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when we go through seasons and we aren't emotionally aware or intelligent because we've grown emotionally
Mhm.
in just different ways, just because we've learned a lot more or evolved emotionally.
Mhm.
But going through those things, it would have been harder than maybe now. Not necessarily this situation, but how you grieve and deal with emotions. Because learning to grieve is definitely a thing, a real thing, and a process.
Yeah.
And and that's anything, not just
Yeah.
death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not just death.
Mhm.
Um Learning to grieve is I still don't know if I do it right.
Mhm.
I've had a lot of loss. I still don't know if I've grieved right.
Mhm.
I have grieved how I knew how.
Right.
I can't say that I have grieved right.
Mhm.
And that's its own challenge because for me,
Mhm.
I lost three of the most important people in my life
Right.
outside of my kids and you. I
Mhm.
lost three of the most important people in my life. My, my biological dad, and you say three, my mom, my dad, my sister, then my pop. We were in a way, and I think as I mature now, he
Mhm.
continues to mean more, but
Mhm.
he didn't mean as much. And I don't say that in any form of disrespect
Mhm.
because we just didn't have that bond.
Right.
But the more I reflect on him and I think about him from time to time, the more I miss him in a different way.
Mhm.
But he wasn't intricate
Mhm.
in my upbringing. And so, my mom, of course, was there from day one.
Right.
My sister was there from day one of
Mhm.
my life,
Right.
right? And my dad, he was there from around age 6 or 7.
Mhm.
And some days when I
Right.
started thinking about how he didn't have any friends that I was aware of, my dad would get up on Saturdays and have to
Mhm.
drag the yard because people were throwing tacks in our yard and stuff and different things like that.
Mhm.
But my dad, he, as I've been reflecting on him the last week or so and not having the friends, is I think about how bad of a son I was
Mhm.
as a young kid, how bad of a son I was because I was definitely disrespectful.
Mhm.
Um, I definitely didn't honor him in the early going of that relationship. It wasn't
Mhm.
until I became a man
Right.
that I was able to honor him in the way that I should have.
Mhm.
Me and my dad got in two physical fights.
Mhm.
That's that's disrespectful. It's out of order.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
I don't think he held any of that against you. just from what I can tell of the relationship, um, of us being together or after you got grown, which that wasn't that many years or that
Yeah.
long,
Yeah.
uh, that long at
No,
all.
not long at all.
But that it kind of made up for it. Not that it took away what
Yeah.
happened,
Yeah.
but you were able to get a lot in a short period of time
Yeah.
of um of relating
Yeah.
or becoming really truly relational with him.
So let me tell you the
Hmm.
transformative moment for me with my dad. Oh man, it's a couple of moments, and I didn't see it until after he was gone. What he was doing for me.
Hmm.
So one, I got the opportunity to repent to him and my mom for some of my behavior as a teenager.
You did.
I got an opportunity to repent. Some kids or some people never have the mental maturity to
Hmm.
understand the need to do that. And I
Hmm.
think that meant something to him.
Hmm.
As he watched me grow in my career and I started traveling and doing things, I saw a proud father
Hmm.
moment. He still had some disappointing moments like, hey, son, you need to, you know,
Right.
but he
Yeah, he's
did some
still
stuff.
fathered.
He's still right.
Hmm.
But then what was really interesting is when they got to a certain point, he was like, they came out and was asking me questions. I'm like, well, and he looked at me like, well, we got to lean on you now. You the leader of the family. And I'm like, I ain't the leader of the family. That's you. He's like,
Right.
no, we got to depend on you.
Yeah.
And I was just telling somebody this the other day.
Hmm.
Do you know financially, emotionally, probably spiritually,
Hmm.
how much better we would have been if we'd have did something that Pop was talking, that my dad was talking about. So at one point, I don't know if you remember this, and
Hmm.
maybe you wasn't around. He was talking about when we used to have the trailer. We had
Oh, I
2 acres.
remember he said it when we lived there.
Yeah,
Hmm.
let's build a compound.
Hmm.
We'll put us a trailer over here. Your sister put her one over there, and we can all here and we can kind of pool our resources together. Do you know
Hmm.
how much different things might have been
Right.
in a lot of different fronts in a very positive way
Hmm.
because you're pooling resources?
Right.
And that used to be the norm,
Hmm.
but
And I
it's
see people getting back to that
yes, I
actually.
see
Hmm.
people leading back to it.
Hmm.
I see people like there's a part of me that's like, hey, we need to find at least 4 or 5 acres
Hmm.
somewhere around here somewhere that at some point we need to build a compound.
Hmm.
Not the compound like Waco or whatever, but I'm
Right.
saying
You call it compound, but there are people that still live like my mom's house here. My sister live right over there. My
yes,
brother down the road, and
yes.
they're it's all
But
right. And
but when I'm
that.
thinking compound, I'm thinking about like I want us to do a raised bed garden this year. I already thought about it.
Hmm.
Whatever is, but being able to like grow some fresh veggies, certain stuff like
Hmm.
that. If you got the land and the space, I ain't saying go get no chickens, and you might get some chickens, but I don't even talking
Oh,
about getting
people
no
getting
pigs
chickens
and
now.
eggs and
Like
cows,
you seen the
right?
price of eggs?
Uh,
I'm gonna get about 2 chickens.
about 2 chickens, right? But you know what I'm saying? So having those things and building that compound out. But
Hmm.
he said that. But so one, I got the chance to repent. Two, he got a chance to verbally kind of pass the torch on to me.
Hmm. Yeah.
But then three, right?
Hmm.
Three, he sought my leadership. He got a chance to tell me he was proud of me
Hmm.
for the man I had become. He was
Yeah.
proud of me for that. And all of that just felt like after he passed that he was handing me the baton because he like, I'm out of here.
Hmm.
Like, hey, if it ain't now, it's coming. I
Right.
need to prepare you.
Hmm.
And he probably didn't do all the preparation that he wanted to be because we didn't have that type of relationship all the time
Hmm.
and stuff. So you know, we're gonna wrap this up because I can talk about this now a
Right.
minute.
I was gonna say this though while I'm thinking about that, and you said that a lot of times, and I'll ask you off air, but you can think about was that enough for you? Because a lot of times, what we do when things like that happen, we still don't receive them because we're not healed or in a place to let it be okay or enough to receive to better or continue to better our life and flow, or do we keep going back to the when I was or I did?
It was enough for me to
Mhm.
release me from the. It was enough for me to release me from the guilt.
Mhm.
I developed a different guilt, which was just being a better son,
Mhm.
right? Even though he was proud of me, but here's the real thing on that.
Mhm.
It was enough for me. That was enough. But the man that I am today, I couldn't have been him without him, and that's a there's a duality in that when I say it.
Mhm.
So he taught me work ethic. My mom taught me work ethic. He taught me things that I know how to do when I feel like doing them. Right?
Mhm.
He taught me a lot of stuff, but also because he didn't have friends,
Mhm.
I didn't have that development of seeing a man have those developmental relationships.
Mhm.
So here's the thing. So I know, like, there's just because conversations I've had with people in your family, different people, or it's like, oh, Damon always kind of off to himself.
Mhm.
That's how my dad was.
All right.
He would go out into his shed,
Mhm.
literally,
Mhm.
and work on stuff
Mhm.
and doing stuff, and it'd be for stuff for the house, whatever. He'd be coming up with stuff. My
Right.
mom wanted one of them ab crunchers. He went out there and figured out how to make one out of PVC. My mama didn't like it, but he like, why I'm gonna spend $100 for that, and I made this for 10, you
Right.
know. And it was just a solid, if not as good. She
Mm.
used it a little bit, but he spent a lot of time. So his routine was he got up, he sometimes he didn't even drive to work. He rode a bicycle because he wanted to keep himself fit.
Mhm.
About a mile and a half to and front, mile and a half there, and mile and a half back. So about 3 miles a day. He would do that. He would come home,
Mhm.
take his bath, eat his dinner, watch some news. Then he's in the bed early because he gets up early.
Mhm.
So he didn't the time like our kids have with us. I didn't get that.
Mhm. Right.
So it's part of
And
my, it kind of fed who I am
mhm.
in an introverted way, where it's okay. I can be perfectly fine.
Mhm.
Like he, this is, and he left me a different kind of gift. Now that I'm thinking about it, he would get up on a Saturday, sometimes be doing nothing, and I happen to get up early or something. And I'm talking about when I say early, 8 or 9 o'clock, and he'd just be sitting on the screen in porch, sitting there just watching cars go by, drinking his coffee.
Mhm.
He usually about on his second or third cup,
Mhm.
and he was cool.
Right.
And so sometimes when I'm sitting in Starbucks, I'm like, look at Pat Jr.
Mhm.
Because I can just be in there just chilling, and I'm cool.
You not in there just chilling.
I'm
Maybe every once in a blue
I
moon.
might be working, but I'm saying
Yeah.
I can come, even I can come out here sometimes
Mhm.
and I can just chill. I have every intent to bring up my laptop, and then my laptop, I put it down and I just
Which
watch
is
TV,
good because
right?
that's the thing.
It's
Mhm.
hard for me to disconnect.
Mhm.
It is hard for me to disconnect.
Mhm.
That's a different type of thing. But
Right. And us, I think in this generation because it's so much now.
yeah,
And simplify to amplify.
slow down to speed up.
Clear your plate.
Yeah.
To for us to go back to some of those things because
yeah.
I think it's even hard for people to be in the moment or do that without thought or just relax or meditate or
Hmm.
anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like before, there are things you learn and things you tweak. I think we both came up in that generation where that's basically what we saw fathers and men do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not necessarily to say it was right
Mm-hmm.
or even wrong,
Right.
but when you know better, you do better
Yeah.
and learn. And so now you've learned, oh, it's okay to actually, or I can work and still interact with my family,
Yeah.
and be present and be there
Yeah.
and do things. And
Yeah.
then that mom don't have to just do them.
Yeah.
I can do stuff with the kids.
What I am learning
Mm-hmm.
is for sure I am learning how to slow down. And I was listening, I can't remember, is it Simon Sinek or somebody else, but they said to speed up, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically you'll get to, or to be more productive, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the things, even as I consult and I try and do, and it's the hardest thing ever because of the pace of most businesses, is
Mm-hmm.
saying if you want quick results, right,
Mm-hmm.
speed up. If you want lasting results, slow down.
For sure.
If you want
For
sustained
sure.
outputs,
Mm-hmm.
slow down.
Right. And that's in everything across the board in life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Patience Having Her Perfect Work is about.
Yeah.
My devotional. But just learning that and leaning into it, and then reconditioning yourself and your mind
Yeah.
to actually do that
Yes.
is a big thing. And
Yes.
so even when you were talking about the retreat and stuff like that, and us writing out the goals and the plans and all the things, what you do even after putting them on the calendar and stuff, because you got to leave a little room for life to life. But
Mm-hmm.
we don't realize how much pre-existing stuff you
Yeah.
have a lot of times. And then
Yep.
you're like, oh, I'm going to take these things and fit them into that without letting any of the pre-existing go.
Yeah.
And you have to,
Yeah.
have to, and learning how to work that and
Yeah.
and strategize to bring it together.
Yeah.
So you don't end up in the same place you were trying to get away from.
Yes. Agreed.
So
Agreed. All right.
mhm.
Anything else?
It's okay to take a mental health day. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
It's okay to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say it again. If you want immediate success, speed up.
Mm-hmm.
If you want lasting success, slow down.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That's it.
That's it.
All right. I feel like we got to come up with something catchy to say when we leave, but we ain't got nothing to say tonight. So
Oh,
listen.
because what do we used to say? Lights.
Yeah, lights off,
Oh,
camera. Yeah, lights
was
off,
that in the beginning?
transparency on. No,
Yeah.
that was in the beginning.
That's right.
But that ain't what we on right now. So
Mm-mm.
thank you for tuning in to another episode of Rich Conversations. It is the currency of connection, and we will see you on the next video. God
You just
bless.
said it.
I know.
Oh, the
I'm
currency
good
of
like that.
connection. We love you for real. Good
Love you
night.
for real. Good night.